Subject to explained in 10 minutes. Guys, subject to is simply a creative financing term that explains when you buy someone's property creatively, and the subject to part means you take over the existing mortgage as part of the deal. It's simple and it's actually easy to do. You see, there's two sections to this. Number one is the title of the property. Depending on what your state it can be a deed of trust, it can be the deed. But title is the person that controls the property. Now, you can change the title to the property, but usually what's the underlying issue on these properties is there's a mortgage. In fact, over 90% of properties typically have a mortgage in the United States, and the mortgage is the underwriting loan that's written to that person that applied at the bank. They had to go through a rigorous credit check. They had to go through a debt income ratio. They had to prove their income with their W-2s and their investments. And if you guys have ever done it, it's exhausting. That debt stays in their name till the day that mortgage is cashed out. So subject to has come to fruition for people that get stuck with properties. And typically if somebody doesn't have a lot of equity in the property, they put down a low down payment and they want to move a year or two later, they typically go out and see a realtor and they say, hey, listen, I need to sell this house. Most of the realtors don't even look up to see what they owe on it, and they find out they get a buyer for it, and they got to pay the real estate commission 6%, closing cost, roughly 2 to 3%, maybe some negotiations. And suddenly the realtor goes, or the title company tells them, to sell this house, you got to write a check for $38,000. And people are like, I don't have 38 grand. What am I going to do? The next iteration they go through is, well, why don't you just rent the property out and you could maybe just cover the rent? And I don't know about you, but like sometimes turn around like, I don't know if I want to be a landlord. What happens if they don't pay the rent? What if the property gets trashed? What if I get in a legal battle? I'm going to be right back in this situation. Now, why they're selling, most people are selling this house because something's changed in their income or they just can't afford it, or honestly, they just made a bad decision. Banks love to give loans out like this because the bank's always in a good position to recoup their money. Their next iteration is, why don't we just sell it on a FSBO, for sale by owner? Well, most people try that out unless you understand how to talk to people and you understand how to sell. Because remember, you want to sell the house, you need a salesperson. Oh, you have no sales experience, you've never done it before. The buyers are going to beat you up and you're going to get exhausted, and most of them wind up being tire kickers and you don't know how to vet them, and you're just getting really frustrated as the owner of this property. And honestly, how most subject twos work out is they've tried every one of these iterations. They work with the realtor. They even looked at refinance with the mortgage broker. They looked up with a property manager to possibly rent the property out for them or do it themselves. Then they thought about a FSBO, and then they think, what if I just walk away the house and just let the bank foreclose on it? How bad can it be? It's going to be bad. It's going to destroy your credit, and you're going to have a foreclosure on your record, which is going to be a real challenge. So here comes you, the creative finance genius, and simply say, are you open to a creative solution to get your house sold? And they're like, what do you mean? You see, you should be the final solution, never the first. And when you lead with subject to before they go through all these iterations, it's usually a disaster. Once they know that the realtor can't help them, the mortgage broker can't help them, the property manager can't help them, the neighbors can't help them, suddenly you look like a savior. And this is how most subject twos are taken over. Think about it. What alternative do they have? They can just walk away the house and let the bank foreclose on them. And they run the risk, if the bank does that they can get a default judgment for whatever monies don't cover the mortgage, and then they can garnish their wages. That does not sound good. So me, the creative finance person, comes in, and this is the solution I offer them. You don't have to write that $38,000 check. Put your checkbook away. I know it's hard. You don't have the money. I don't want you to do that. You don't have to pay for the realtor fees. No realtor fees? No, there's no realtor fees for me to take it over subject to. There's going to be no closing costs because I'm responsible for that. And then here's the cool part is you could just move out and I'll handle the minor repairs. It's not a problem for me. I'm also going to save your house from foreclosure. I'm going to save your credit from just going to a terrible, terrible number. And most importantly, I'm going to save you your dignity and let you move on with your life. So I get it. Things happen in life. People need a solution. They need a second chance. I'm offering it to you with this subject to offer. So now we come down to the structure of the offer, and most people find this very attractive. And subject to really boils down to two simple things. Number one, how much money do you have to give the seller to induce them to take this agreement? It's highly negotiable. Sometimes when the house is deep in foreclosure, it's a couple payments behind. They really don't want much other than you to catch up the payment. And sometimes you get nice, pretty houses that need no work and they're not behind on the mortgage. And sometimes you got to give them between $5,000 and $15,000, maybe $20,000. But you don't want to be giving huge chunks of money away for the subject to, because the idea is the more money you got to give, the less options you have when you go to exit this property. The second question is how long before you cash the seller's mortgage out? Because this is going to be your biggest objection in all subject twos. Think about it. They got a 30-year mortgage and maybe they're only in year 2. There's 28 years left. Now, in the perfect world, I would like to take it over for the 28 years. And I do that all the time. I simply ask. And there's ways where you can offset their income, where you can actually produce a lease on that property so they can go get another mortgage down the line because we save their credit and they don't have a foreclosure. That's all great news. But this is highly negotiable, just like the down payment. My recommendation to you guys is 5 years. Why? Because it takes time to right a ship in creative financing, especially subject to. The idea is to have the new end buyer pay it down. You create equity. You can charge a bigger spread, and then everybody wins. If you have a short payoff like 1 or 2 years, what if it doesn't work out? What are you going to do? That's the challenge here. So guys, once again, I want to review with you. The 2 basic negotiating terms on any subject to is number 1, how much are you going to give the seller? Let the deal dictate it, period, end of story. You should never exceed, in my opinion, 5% of the gross value of the house. And honestly, some people pay as high as 10% because 10% is what I want to sell that property on a creative or owner financing or a wrap. So if you give too much money up front, you're not going to make money until the whole loan's cashed out. And that's problematic. And then step number 2 is how long before you cash them out. So most subject twos, people want a balloon. They want their mortgage cashed out. Their name's tied to it. Their credit's tied to them. And I simply reassure them that I can either prepay months in advance on their finance company's website, on their finance company's online site. That makes them feel reassured. Or I'll use a third-party provider to make basically escrow payments to make sure everything gets paid on time, because I want to make sure that the loan gets paid on time and it gets paid down to save their credit and obviously to avoid a foreclosure. Now, I know what you're saying. Go, Rick, well, what about the due on sale clause? I'm here to tell you it happens far less frequently than everybody talks about it. It is a risk because when the original debtor signed the mortgage, they said if they ever sold the property, that the loan would be due on sale. There's techniques that you can use, a little bit more advanced strategies. I like to put them in a trust, but once you switch the title of that name with AI going forward, that these banks can probably see when you change title and they can demand that you pay it off. Now, here's the good news is most banks, as long as they get their payments, they don't care. But if properties are deep in foreclosure, like 6, 12, or 18 months behind, those are going to be more susceptible of the loan being called due in my experience. But guys, it's kind of all over the board. Worst case scenario, if it gets a due on sale clause, you can either refinance the property, I go get a cash partner and figure out how to cash you out, or just get the property sold or have your new end buyer qualify for the loan. There's always options. If it has a great deal and there's monthly cash flow, which is the difference in what you pay in the mortgage and what the market rent rate would be, then these subject to deals work really well. So I wanted to give you kind of brief synopsis in under 10 minutes, and I think I've hit my mark. But guys, I like doing subject twos. I prefer you look for them in your wholesaling business. I don't like properties that are completely upside down unless the cash flow is amazing and the interest rate's low. But sometimes I get these things 10, 15 years into it and they're amazing. Guys, let the deal dictate if you're going to do a subject to. There's other creative financing techniques, but this is when you take over an existing mortgage that makes sense for you, that makes the property work, and then basically you use the bank's money as the creative financing. You don't have to qualify. You don't have to do all these credit checks, and you don't have to come up with a ton of money other than what you give to the seller. And guys, that seller is highly negotiable. If they're 2 months behind, I usually make up the 2 payments and then I'll give them 1 payment. That's a rule I do. It works well. Does everybody take it? Absolutely not. I avoid the people that want 50 to 100,000 up front because that's not a creative finance deal they're subject to. That is a one-sided deal that's not going to help you out. So I always want to win in a creative financing deal. I want to make money up front. I want to make money on the cash flow in the middle. And I definitely want to make money in the end. But if you want to learn more on how to do this, check us out over at freewholesaling.com. Join our free school group, and we'd love to talk creative financing. And I love creative financing. I love wholesaling. They are a perfect marriage. Let me know, are you guys doing subject to deals in your wholesaling business? And if not, why? Are you scared of the due on sale clause? It's not that big of a deal. Let me know in the comments. And if you got value from this video, make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe button so other people can find the truth out on how wholesaling works. This is Rick Ginn. I'll see you in the next video.